I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the mysterious disappearance and murder of mother of two, Suzanne Morphew. Her husband, Barry, has been charged with a murder but has proclaimed his innocence. Charges were dismissed the first time he's arrested. Will these new charges stick? Here's the story. On Mother's Day, May 10th, 2020, Suzanne Morphew vanished from her home in Chaffee County, Colorado. Her bike was found abandoned on a remote trail, but Suzanne was gone without a trace. What began as a missing persons case soon spiraled into a complex investigation riddled with secrets, suspicion, and heartbreak. Suzanne, a beloved mother of two, had been texting a lover and expressing fears about her troubled marriage. Her husband, Barry Morphew, insisted she'd been taken by a mountain lion. But investigators uncovered deleted messages, GPS data, and inconsistencies in his story. In 2021, Barry was arrested and charged with her murder, but with no body, insufficient evidence, and ethical issues connected to the prosecutor, the case was dismissed without prejudice. Then, in a shocking turn, in September of 2023, Suzanne's remains were discovered in a shallow grave nearly 40 miles from where she disappeared. Now, almost 2 years later, her husband Barry has once again been charged with her murder. This has been a real true crime mystery throughout. I mean, it began with a missing mom, goes missing on Mother's Day of all days. Like, where is she? And then there are some certain clues that are followed. And then all the twists and turns of the investigation and prosecution of the case have brought us to this moment. And a huge development with the DA making this huge announcement. Take a listen.
I can announce today that the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment. The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree. Law enforcement, the Chaffee County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne.
And remember, she has to say, never stop fighting, because there were charges. He was brought into court. He was locked up. All that, we were moving towards a trial, and then everything happened and the charges were dismissed, which brings us to the first question in our investigation tonight. Why was Barry Morphew re-indicted? What has changed in this investigation and in this case? Here to help answer that question, Colorado-based attorney Stephen Longo and retired homicide detective Vince Velasquez. You know him from ATL Homicide, but he is set to premiere a new show called The Murder Man on YouTube, and we are all looking forward to that. Make sure you check it out, folks, The Murder Man. Vince Velasquez, great to have you here as well. Okay, let me start with you, though, Stephen, on the legal twists and turns here with the indictment, the re-indictment, etc. It seems there were big problems with the original prosecutor and the way they were going about prosecuting this case.
Yes, Benny, thank you for having me. You hit the nail on the head. The biggest issue with why this case is being re-indicted is because the first prosecution, to put it plainly, fumbled the case, okay? They had a case based on circumstantial evidence to begin with, but the district attorney, Lindsay Stanley, committed a number of ethical violations. Mind you, she was newly elected at the time. So following her being elected, this is her first big high-profile case, and she comes out of the gate by committing what we call extrajudicial statements to the press, meaning prejudicial statements that might make it so Mr. Morphew won't be allowed to have a fair trial. She was cited for improper supervision. Her office failed to make proper disclosures, resulting just months before trial 11 of their 16 expert witnesses were not going to be allowed to testify. Following that, she tried to have the judge who made that ruling investigated in an attempt to get a recusal. So following all that, just months before trial, to save face and try to save the case maybe for another day, the charges were ultimately dismissed.
Vince, this is one of those cases, right, where the investigators do all the work and then the lawyers totally bungle it. But I want you to take a listen to some of the key evidence, I believe, for this re-indictment that is really helping, may help prosecutors get a conviction here if the jury believes it. Take a listen as Cody Thomas walks us through it.
In the grand jury indictment, the district attorney explains the drugs found in Suzanne Morphew's bones. It's, quote, a chemical mixture known as BAM, or the combination of butyphenol, azaparone, and metatomidine. The chief toxicologist tested Suzanne Morphew's bone marrow for the presence of BAM. All three of the individual chemicals that comprise BAM were present. The coroner's office determined cause of death and manner of death as follows: homicide by unspecified means in the setting of BAM intoxication. BAM could only be obtained by prescription from a veterinarian. BAM must be administered into the bloodstream through intravenous or intramuscular injection. BAM does not cause sedation instantaneously, but takes several minutes to take effect. BAM is designed not to be lethal and comes with reversal agents in the prescription kit. However, BAM is not FDA approved for any human use. The compound would render the recipient wholly immobile, vulnerable, and unable to resist any constrictions to the recipient's ability to breathe. Records were obtained for BAM prescriptions related to Barry Morphew. The prescription records show that when Suzanne Morphew disappeared, only one private citizen living in that entire area of the state had access to BAM, Barry Morphew. Barry Morphew used BAM to sedate and transport deer on his deer farm. Barry Morphew admitted to using BAM in both Indiana and Colorado. Specifically, he admitted to using BAM in Colorado as recently as April of 2020, stating that at that time he had tranquilized a deer from the breezeway of the Morphew residence.
Vince, sounds to me like prosecutors believe that he hunted down his own wife with this BAM.
Yeah, this is literally the proverbial smoking gun. With all of the circumstantial evidence already that we know of that would have been presented in the first trial that still exists today, and that's the great thing about circumstantial evidence, it never goes away. This is the smoking gun. In her bones, this animal tranquilizer is found, and then they find this same tranquilizer at his house, and he is, authorized to have it. This is one of those things that, as a homicide detective, this is like a gift from the homicide gods.
Another part of it is the darts, and I'm wondering here, how on earth, and Stephen Longo, from your perspective, what do you think prosecutors are going to argue happened here? Like, how are they going to tell a story of exactly how he did it, or just put the pieces out there and say, we don't know how he did it, but this is what he used?
Yeah, I think the theory from the former prosecution was that he tranquilized her with an unknown agent, chased her around the house as it took effect, and then moved her body initially to where he committed the murder, whether that was in the home or somewhere else. And I think, to Vince's point, this is that smoking gun. It is no longer a mysterious agent or chemical. It is a trifecta of sedatives known as BAM that is sold by one private company in the United States that is heavily regulated, and he is the only private citizen who has access to it in the state of Colorado. This completely fills in the kind of any holes the defense would have to make as to the use of a sedative. And again, the body being found was the big component for this new prosecution to find that evidence.
Yeah, that was so crucial, Vince, actually being able to track down Suzanne's remains and be able to extract this type of evidence.
Yeah, it's crazy. So prosecuting a case without a body, I've never had it. In the many years I worked homicide, I had cases that had a ton of circumstantial evidence, but prosecutors are really hesitant on going to trial for that, and it's difficult. And it's no surprise that they dismissed this case without prejudice, hoping that either find her body or more evidence, and they did. They did exactly that. And the fact that they found her body, that is step number one. And then manner, cause of death, ruled a homicide, and then this animal tranquilizer found in her bones. This really seals the deal. Add that with all the text messages, the fact that their marriage was in shambles, that she was leaving him, having an affair, all of these things the jury's going to hear. This is great evidence, and it proves, or at least it shows that, this guy is likely responsible for her death.
Stephen, when you think about what happened first time around, they didn't have all of this evidence. They've got more second time around. It's almost as if the district attorney screwing up the case may actually help the prosecution. Is there any sort of limitations that the prosecution will have second time around here because of what happened first time around?
No, there will be no limitations. I think one of the differences we'll see in this, obviously Ann Kelly is lead prosecutor for the district attorney's office. Because the body was found in the San Luis Valley, they changed venue from Chaffee County down to Alamosa, which will be a little bit different and ultimately won't have much of an impact other than getting another shot with more evidence, with a body. And I think Ann Kelly's going to do a great job. She's going to be a hard-nosed, tough, and by-the-book prosecutor and likely bring this one home.
Vince, how about making that transition from it being a missing persons case to then turning into a homicide case? And I know different jurisdictions handle that differently. Is there some nuance to that?
I mean, there could be, but I think, from the onset, I think everybody was suspicious of Barry. Looking at the video you just showed, when he's on the news talking about literally telling the news that he is, missing his wife. If anybody's out there, let her go, come home safely. If you look at his face while he's saying these things, he's shaking his head no. That's nonverbal incongruence. It's not matching up. His words and his body language are not matching up. From the beginning, everybody suspected Barry of having something to do with his missing wife. So if you can't find a body, you don't know exactly what happened to her, then you have to rely, or the prosecutors have to rely on the circumstances to try and prove a homicide. It's extremely difficult. The fact that they found her body, that kick-started this thing right back up, and that's what we're talking about today. From what I've read, this evidence is very strong, and I think the jury's going to come back with a guilty verdict.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much. Vince is going to stick around. Coming up next, what was the status of Barry and Suzanne's relationship?
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back.
Brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
Oh my God, this doesn't happen here.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger.
You could tell there was some off about him.
He was stalking them. He was hunting them.
Forget about motive. We don't even have a connection.
This trial will be on Court TV.
And I pray that we have justice.
The Idaho College student murders trial. Live coverage begins this August, only on Court TV.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out